It is overtime here again at Old Favorite Friday, and we are continuing the conversation about the Gaffel. I'm going to pronounce that terribly each time. I believe the L is not supposed to be pronounced after listening to it many, many times online to try to get it right. Gaffel is what I got off of it, and that might be wrong. So any German speakers out there, lambaste me in the comments. But this Kolsch was recommended to us by someone who saw a previous Old Favorite Friday. We did Old Favorite Friday on one of my favorite Kolsches, which is the Reissdorf Kolsch. And someone in one of the comments, and I went back to try to find it because I wanted to shout them out in this, it's on so many different platforms, and I couldn't find the actual code. Anyway, I hope you're still watching this, recommended that we pick this beer up, and I did not believe it was available in South Florida, and I just didn't see it. Okay, it was on the shelf the whole time. I went to Total Wine & More. I remember that this was a beer that was recommended, so I picked it up. So it was the first time I ever had it, was tasting it at that recommendation, and I was blown away. I think this is probably, and it's called Old Favorite Friday, but we try not to play favorites with we don't say, well, this beer is better than this beer, blah, blah, blah. I think this has taken the cake for me as far as my favorite Kolsch out there right now. It is just beautifully done, wonderfully balanced. I mean, the complexity and nuance of flavor in such a simple beer that on the surface it seems like a simple beer is just astounding. And I know this is their first time. I tried this a little while ago and could prepare a little bit. Sometimes you have to just kind of be dropped in to start talking about it immediately. You just tried it for the first time. So Ralph, let's get your thoughts.
Yeah, so I really like this, and I can see why you're giving it such high praise, because the cool trick it's playing with me, and I'm sure it could be the yeast itself, it could be like a hop yeast combo, but it has a brightness where I almost want to go as far as to say like berry. It's like a stone fruit berry thing, and what it actually reminds me a lot of is when you have a lot of those tropical like white wines. Because when I say brightness, it's almost, even though it's not acidic, but it gives you almost like an acidity that creates a refreshing character. I was actually listening to a podcast not too long ago where they were gauging like what makes a beer refreshing, and they did a whole study. And like I can see where that perception of almost, like I said, a berry tropical note makes you want to go back for another sip, because it tricks your brain into thinking, oh, this is such a refreshing drink.
And there's so much. I read a bunch of reviews of this beer. I try to do a little bit of research for every one of these, and I read some reviews on Untapped, and it just made me sad for the state of beer in our industry, because of it just didn't have that great of reviews. I mean, you just had tons of people giving it 2s, 3s, and just another beer, calling it a lager when it's not a lager. If you knew anything about beer, and I'm sorry to be a little bit rude to someone that might have tried this beer and might not have thought it was all that special, if you drink this beer and you don't think it's an excellent representation of the style, I'm sorry, you don't know beer. This is to that level as far as being a benchmark beer, of being a great Kolsch. I'm not saying you have to love Kolsch. You can still give it your 1 star, obviously. I'm not going to fight you on that. That's your choice. That's what that platform is for. But it's a shame, because this beer deserves so much more praise for being what it is. And we talk about that with pale ales and in styles that traditionally don't get the love they should. What's better for Old Favorite Friday than a beer that doesn't get the love that it should? Because this should be ranked up there extremely high.
Oh yeah, and I think with Untapped and a lot of those, unfortunately, it's style dependent. So while they should, and we've talked about it, there should be a 5-star Kolsch, I don't think that will unfortunately ever happen for whatever reason the way Untapped works. But I totally agree, because I've had quite a few Kolsch's, especially with even us doing this show, and even for what some people might assume is a simple beer, this one not only stands out, but with those, I guess, simpler beers, there's definitely way less to hide behind. So not only is this free of flaws, but it's actually excelling, which is a really cool thing to do, because you can make a perfect beer that has no flaws, but it doesn't mean it's gonna like grab you as the audience. You might not be like, oh wow, this is really good. You'll just be like, oh, there's no flaws, but no, this actually goes to that next level in terms of its quality, where it makes you want to go back for another sip. And I could see I'm not the biggest Kolsch drinker in terms of like when I'm at home, but I would totally get another 6-pack of this, because like I said, it reminds me, as also a wine drinker, it has such a cool profile that I would want to drink more.
When we praise macro lagers, And we have praised macro lagers for their consistency they deliver the same flavor from multiple different facilities, blah, blah, blah. We're praising the technical know-how and understanding how to make the beer, the cleanness of the beer, and we're saying that is the thing that makes that beer stand out. But we don't often say, oh yeah, and it's tremendously flavorful, complex and nuanced, and makes you interested to go back for another drink. This does both those things. And that is what we love when we see those two things meet together. And we see that with, and I always go back to it, Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. We see it with some of those foundational styles made in the US and all over the country, all over the world, I should say. And this definitely does that. I mean, you get a little sweetness on the beginning. You get this amazing hop profile on the back end that has these nuances of, I mean, tons of floral notes. You're getting old school herbaceous, kind of like old world hops, but it is also bringing in all those fruity esters from I mean, it just all works. I could call a beer harmonious.
Yep.
Right? Everything that's kind of brought together. It's almost like a chili that's been, in your fridge for 3 days, and they say those flavors melt. This beer does that, and it does it all by being clean, beautiful to look at, and I mean, this is one of those beers when I drink it, I'm like, man, I wish I could make a beer this good. And I know I don't brew beer anymore, that's your job, but when I have these beers, I get excited about it because these are the beers that kind of make me really love the beer industry, and I cannot thank you enough, beautiful stranger, for telling me about this beer and letting us know about it. I hope you have a chance to see this video and you comment on it. And it just goes to show you, listen, help us find these great beers. That's one of the reasons why we do this. We want to share the beers we love with you, and we want to hear back about the beers that you love. And we get so many suggestions, and we do those suggestions of beers that either we forgot about. Oh my God, I forgot about Great Divide, right? Or one of these breweries that isn't available down here anymore, and I try to pick it up. And also beers that we've just never heard of before. And this is a beer, unfortunately, I haven't had before. That will no longer be the case. This will be a good staple for me going forward. Ralph, you have anything else you want to say about the beer?
Yeah, I would just say, just to the styles like Kolsch, just in general. And well, one thing before I go into that, but I will say the coolest part about this, like I said, is how it stands out. And just that, because with a style like Kolsch, you want to be, a lot of people want to be a BJCP nerd and all that. And they managed to do that while still making it interesting. And that's even what I was going to say about the Kolsch style and some of these styles like that, is if you go through enough of these like lagers or beers that you consider like, oh, that's like a, older beer or something I want, it's not a big imperial stout or, IPA or whatever. But you can find exceptional examples like this one. So just because you don't think, like, oh, this is what a Pilsner tastes like, or this is what a Helles tastes like, it's not always going to be the case. So I recommend people should go out and try more styles like this that often get overlooked.
Foundational styles like this and foundational beers that have been brewed since 1908, beers like this are what all other beer is taken from, right? They have, other lagers have grown off of it. It's like drinking classic IPAs and saying, well, this is where it started. Understanding where it starts, it makes you understand where it's going and where it's come from, and that's just a wonderful thing. So thank you guys very much. Please continue, like I said, let us know what we should be drinking for Old Favorite Friday. You should be picking this beer up if it's available in your area, if you've never had it before or haven't had it in a long time. And please poke around the channel, see longer conversations. See our conversation about the Reissdorf Kolsch, which I loved, and you can kind of see how excited we can get over a Kolsch style, right? Like we're talking about, is traditionally not something that people are doing, 10-minute videos for. Well, at least not in this country. But please do that, and we'll see you next week for Old Favorite Friday. Cheers.
Cheers.